And so, the stillness of simply being, the essential stillness that just is, the unmoving, unchanging field, the essence nature of all beings, the silent, still source from which everything arises. We come to stillness to remember the essence nature, to simply be just as you are, exactly as you are. There is nothing to change, nothing to do, nothing to achieve. You already are this essential stillness. So important to feel the resonance of remembering that you already are. This is not about becoming. Any sense of becoming belongs to the mind. This is about aligning and attuning with your knowing of who you already are. It's falling into yourself just as you are and just as you have always been. Remembering the timeless, eternal nature. Remembering the simplicity, the purity, the innocence of who you are. Before engagement with story, that you are anything less than, that there is anything to achieve. Stillness is the opening to the silent field. The silent field is already fully awake and knowing itself. It is reality, totality. It is already whole, and you already belong to this wholeness. So as these words come, it is not to follow in a way that wants to understand. It is to be the listening, not the listener. Be the open, receptive, listening field that is just aligning and picking up the resonant frequency of knowing, of recognition, recognition of your own silent heart. At some point, without doing a single thing, you will drop in deeper than the mind's possible capacity to understand into the resonant alignment that is still, silent, and just simply here, being here. You cannot know with the mind that this is who you are. You can only know as the being the knowing, knowing as the being. And in the stillness, the simplicity of this moment, before story, before things, before everything, here you are, just as you have always been, the timeless being, simple openness, open receptivity, soft, tender, precious, gentle, kind, patient, transparent in your clarity, innocent and pure beyond imagining, never touched or disturbed in any way by the surface of life playing out, dancing its lively, wild dance. Never touched, always free, always eternally free. Cannot find this truth in the story, cannot find this truth in things, can only know this truth as who you are, as the simple being. can only know this truth here, now, in the timeless openness that just is. It is not someone coming to realize something. It is not a new persona, a new story, a new identity. It is who you are before all of that. So there is no becoming. It is unbecoming, if anything. It's letting go of all will to be, to become, to learn, to achieve, to attain, letting go of spiritual ambition, letting go of it all, and just falling curiously, openly into this moment. Allowing the great unraveling to happen all by itself, through being the stillness, being the simple, silent awareness. Here you are, just as you have always been. Can feel yourself here now. There's a felt sense of simply being here. Are you here? Yes. And where do you go to know your here-ness? Where is the answer, the knowing of your here-ness? The knowing of your here-ness is simply being. It's a felt sense. It is an alive resonance, and it is not in the mind. It is the simple knowing of who you are, and in this knowing, the innate knowing of who you have always been. The knowing is timeless. It is eternal. It is boundless, infinite. You are freedom. You are not someone who is free. You are freedom. You are not someone that can be empowered. You are pure power, the pure power of potentiality. And you are the open field of infinite possibility. Anything is spontaneously possible in this moment, in this moment, in this moment. Nothing is fixed, nothing is decided. It is an open, vast field, and you are the freedom of that field. You are not bound in any way, never bound. You are before any sense of being bound. To come to your freedom, to leave the play of the world and the story of being bound, and come to freedom, the freedom that you are. As these words come, it is just to feel the resonance, feel the aliveness. Where you feel the aliveness, where you feel recognition, remembering, it is just to fall into that. Do not need to make sense of it. You cannot make sense of it. Makes no sense to the mind. And yet here you are, already free, pure, innocent, unbounded openness, simply being. And in simply being, you are aware. You are awareness. Can be aware of the moving, changing, and yet you are simultaneously aware of your own nature as stillness. Feel the stillness of your unmoving, silent, resting being. This deep relaxation into the stillness, the silence that is underlying the moving, changing play on the surface of life. Fall underneath the surface play, deep, deep into the still, silent waters of your own being. Only here can you remember the deep essence nature of your simple beingness. And here then you know, as the deep ocean of silence, that you too are the ebbs and the flows, the waves and the dance on the surface. But you cannot know what the surface play is all about. You cannot fathom it through the mind, can only know it as yourself when you know yourself deep in the ocean of being, in the stillness, in the silence, in the remembering of your timeless nature here now. And so these words are not about the words. It does not matter what the words are saying. In a way, there is a radiant kindness because the words give the mind something to mull over. But as the mind is mulling over the words and following, there is something more profound happening in the unseen, in the unmanifest. Your very own self is starting to resonate and come alive in the deepest possible remembering. And if you have already fallen into the deep knowing of your silent nature, into the being, then you just fall deeper. You immediately start to resonate with the remembering, with the subtle frequency of consciousness perceiving itself in the realm of unbounded consciousness. So just to feel where you are alive, just to feel where you are alive as this alive presence. The presence itself is alive. Your presence is alive. It is alive in the knowing of itself. Still silent, never moving or changing, eternally the same. Cannot make sense, can only be here. Knowing is in the being, and being is the stillness that just is. It is a simple relaxation into the felt sense of just being here, into the felt sense of existence, that the feeling of your existence before name and form and story is existence itself. It is the one simple existence. It is the awake, alive field, just resonating within itself. It has no story, it has no needs or desires or wants, and so too is your true nature. Desireless, wantless, needless, without any attachment, without any aversion, without attributes in truth. You are emptiness, a simple, open emptiness. The habit that has been learned has been to go towards the content of experience. It has been learned to identify and for the attention to identify and attach to objects, to things. There is no point trying to do anything about that. But that mechanism of habit naturally collapses when attention rests. Attention rests here now, and you feel yourself simply being here. There is a relaxation, an openness, and you fall into the simplicity of being. Simple presence, just simply being as you are, just as you are. The naturalness of your open essence nature. Natural, entirely natural. This relaxation into naturalness. The simple grace of being yourself. In this moment, not evaluating, analyzing, not putting any energy outwards, just fully, openly receiving. When there is open receptivity, there is this simple listening, listening with no listener, just being the listening, openly receiving the flow, receiving the aliveness of your own presence, just falling in and in and in to this moment, this moment, this moment, this moment. You are this moment, here now, the openness that includes it all. It matters not what is going on. We are not trying to stop the mind. We are not excluding anything. We are just simply relaxing into this moment. When we come to the stillness of being, all of the defenses can naturally relax. We come to stillness, we come to wholeness, we come to the light of the shining self simply being, shining all by itself just because it is, shining in its own radiant wholeness, wide open heart shining. And this shining, shining, shining is what illuminates and offers this spacious openness for all defenses and protections to soften and relax. There is no doing, nothing is needed. Just the light of the radiant heart, naturally emanating kindness, patience, compassion, a love that is without condition. And this light that is love, is this vast openness that welcomes everything, welcomes this moment to be just as it is. So it matters not what is happening on the surface of life. Everything is welcome. Nothing is to be denied. Nothing is to be denied. Can spend so much time trying to do a quality of work that is trying to meet things, trying to receive things. What if it's all just welcome as it is, and the welcoming in itself and the not denying anything is the work? It's not trying to change it into something more palatable. No, it's about letting it be welcome, even if there's a part that feels that it is unpalatable. Even if there is a part that says, I don't want it to be like that. I don't like that part of myself. In the non-denial, can we welcome it all? Not trying to push anything away in order to create spiritual moods or ideas about what this is all about. Can we let go of all of those ideas in the vast presence of stillness? Can we allow all ideas and beliefs about what is the essence nature? Can we let them all crumble into this light that is so kind and open and loving? Can we let everything crumble? Can we be here as openness, as emptiness, and not give any value to what has been learned, not give value to experience, not give value to things? Can we fall into the only thing of value that is not even a thing, and that is the power of your own presence, the power of stillness, the incredible power of silence. Everything is here in the silence, in the stillness of simply being. The unfathomable truth. It is who you are, what you are. Not something for the me to conceptualize. We cannot do letting go. We can only illuminate the beliefs and the myths and the ideas and the concepts, just to illuminate. And through illumination, we welcome everything. Illumination is not judging. Illumination is not sectioning and dividing things into different areas, the acceptable and the non-acceptable, right? The play of attachment and aversion. We are not giving any kind of qualifications, descriptions, definitions to anything. We're just simply being here. It couldn't be more simple. And yet, why is it so hard to be simple? So we speak about this directness of falling into yourself. Bang, here you are. This is who you have always been. The immediacy, the spontaneous clarity of seeing yourself beyond question. If it's so simple, why does it feel so hard? It feels so hard because we are so conditioned to attach to things. We're so conditioned and habituated to be in the play of the mind, to identify with things. And so whilst this wholeness, this truth, this innocent, pure, immaculate being is who you already are, it is the one being that all beings belong to innately, right now, fully, totally, completely, perfectly. Why does it not feel like that? It feels like that because the attention is with the story of not being that. It is the greatest pull away from the remembering is the story of not being that, the story of not being enough. The concepts around awakening and the mind's beliefs that it knows what this is. The defenses, the protections, all of the ways that we hold on to being someone, because the idea of being no one feels risky and scary to the mind. Of course, Of course it does. Can we let that be here too? Can we just let it all be here, just as it is? There is a deeper intelligence at play here. It is consciousness. It is your consciousness, and it is pure intelligence. Knows how to do this. It's got this. It's got you. It's all taking care of itself. And it is luring you, pulling you in to remember the resonance, the subtle threads that are engaged with ideas and beliefs and concepts. But simultaneously, you already are, and consciousness already is. It's all moving and changing and unraveling. It sounds like a process. But where there is no time, there is no process. So, on the surface of life, it looks like a process. Okay, that's okay. Let it be a process. In the presence of now, there is no process. There's only now. And you are now. You are the now. You are the now. You are the now. You are freedom. You are simplicity. You are the immaculate, pure, innocent being. And somewhere in your beingness, in this very moment, you can feel the truth of that. And it is just to align with where you feel the resonance of truth, where you feel the yes, where you feel the relaxation, the aliveness, the light, the clarity. Whatever word, it does not matter. Where you feel the truth, it is just to be here. And do not follow the next question of the mind that says, but what is it? Doesn't matter. Let it go. Let it go. Can never find a way for the mind to understand, not in the way that it wants to. And yet there is this holy, holy beauty where the mind itself finds its true nature. The mind itself relaxes into its true nature. Finds itself at home. Stillness, silence, simplicity. We are not speaking about mind as the play of thinking. Creative thinking is not a problem. It is the thoughts that perpetuate separation that we are referring to as mind, the mind that creates the distraction. Creative thinking in itself is just a dance of consciousness. Creative thinking is not a problem. Creative thinking is how expression, creation happens. Right? What we are speaking of are the thoughts that perpetuate separation, that fragment, that divide, the habits, all of the ways that we have learned to divide and protect and defend. But these defenses, these protections, they will only relax into wholeness. They will only relax into the stillness of being. So the reason that it can feel so hard to be yourself, even though you already are yourself, is because the habit is to dwell upon and engage in the mind's meanderings and believe the stories that the mind tells itself. Mind speaking to itself, someone speaking to someone. But what are you before that? Come to the being. Come to the felt sense of simply being here. Come to this moment. Come to the stillness. Feel the stillness. Do not look with your mind for stillness. Feel the deep, resounding, still presence. To feel yourself here now. Recognize the stillness, the simplicity of just being, your own simple presence. Has no name, has no story, just simply is. True inquiry can only happen when this stillness is established and known. True inquiry is not the mind looking to answer questions. When you know the stillness, all curiosity about this stillness, all curiosity about yourself is inquiry. Curiosity is inquiry when it is a curiosity that is taken inside, into the stillness, into the silence, into the presence of being. And when you rest here, curious, following the inquiry into the stillness, into the silence, you find yourself, you find the simple presence of being. All inquiry brings you to yourself, and the inquiry is taken within. But it has to be taken into stillness, has to be taken into the silence of being, and then just to be here. It brings the knowing of being alive. True wisdom is right here, right here. If you come to the stillness, to the silence, and the mind looks around and says, no, there's nothing here, nothing here, and dips back into its meanderings and concepts, well, that wasn't a very fruitful inquiry. Nothing here, I best keep looking, right? But when the stillness is established, the presence is established, you can linger here in the silent depths, curiously waiting, not waiting for an answer that satisfies the mind, but allowing the curiosity, the inquiry to give way to clarity. It is the answer of all answers, but it is not an answer that the mind is looking for. Inquiry, curiosity, a willingness to just be here gives way to clarity. It gives way to a clarity of being that is the knowing of being. It is the remembering of the essence nature, remembering of who you are. To feel yourself here, that you just simply are. In this presence of being, you find yourself. not as someone, but as the being. It is the being itself here that recognizes itself, where the mind has softened into stillness, where there is an open receptivity, a kind and patient welcoming of everything, so that no defenses are needed, no stories or concepts are needed, just right here in the simplicity of now. You find yourself right here as the peace, the undisturbable peace, right here. You have never changed, you have never gone anywhere. You are not looking for something that has been lost. You are not looking for something new and exciting and fresh. You are finding yourself in your own presence, finding yourself as the vast open space in which all happening is happening. When you feel yourself here now, you are openness, emptiness. Just to notice, do you have any edges in this felt sense of being? Can you find any boundaries to this being that you are? Just here now in this felt sense. Simply being, the stillness, the silent stop, noticing the felt sense of yourself is still here. It is nameless, it is formless, it is a vastness. Could say there is a felt sense of being expanded, that you are not in the body, you have no location, you are here, but you are not bound and contained. You are not defined by thoughts or body. The felt sense of yourself is everywhere, is nowhere, is here. There is a simplicity. Just to feel the simple remembering. There's just a gorgeousness, a peace, a homecoming, a recognition of this heart that is open and free and pure and simple. It needs nothing, no one, no story, no drama, totally self-sufficient. And the confirmation of this truth is right here in being the being. Right here, you are the spacious, infinite being. You are freedom itself. Ever present, ever free, ever simple, ever peaceful, undisturbable, unwaverable. Right? You're just here. Feel the deep, silent peace. It is not dependent upon anything changing in my world. It is just to come to recognize that regardless of what is happening on the surface of life, peace is here. Simplicity is here. And how you know this peace, this simplicity is in the openness of being, in the self that is the heart of all. The knowing is like this radiance. It is this beaming, shining, radiant light. Nothing is needed. You are like a generator, right? You're self-sustaining. The light, the power, the resonance, the knowing, the being, right? You start to feel the pure potentiality of the aliveness of the knowing. Right? You're generating, self-sustaining the light, the power, the knowing, the being, the presence, the aliveness. Right? Here you are, the light, the power, the presence, the knowing, the openness, the clarity. Nothing is needed. Completely self-sufficient. Wholeness. Right? Wholeness. Nothing is needed. You do not need to reach out, because here in the being, you are completely self-sustaining wholeness. You are perfection. You are clarity. You are innocent, immaculate purity. There's nothing to believe. There's nothing to do here, but just to recognize. Open the eye of the I. Here now, as the being, gaze into the I that is the light of the self, and know yourself. Know yourself through being yourself. No work is needed to know yourself. It is not a progressive unfolding. It is a spontaneous, immediate recognition of what you already are. And yes, we spend time in the play of preparing, nurturing, removing defenses, settling things out, right? We do work in this arena. But this, bang, clarity, it's right here. You already are. We do spend time cleaning and polishing, sweeping and dusting away all of the cobwebs. Yes, we do. But it's not necessary, and it's not a process in time that the mind wants to get hold of. Well, I haven't cleared enough up yet. I haven't done my work. I haven't seen through all of this. Don't worry about any of that. Do not let the mind create a project out of something that is not a project. There is no rhyme or reason to when the bottom falls out of your box, right? It's not a linear journey, a progressive journey that you can understand. Readiness is not the me's readiness. Readiness is divine readiness. Bang, slap, gone, right? It's not about the me being ready, the me preparing. It's not about the me knowing anything. It is about constantly coming to the being, to the being, to the being. And yes, there is this play where we have the grace of being able to refine and mature through the receiving of the flow of life, receiving the feelings, meeting this moment in its entirety, not denying anything, and meeting the field that can bring forward stress in the nervous system. And yes, this is important. It is important. But it is to know that there's a naturalness to it all. When we need to meet stress in order to clear something. When is the right timing of that? It's all a divine orchestrated unfolding. All that is being asked is to choose God, to choose grace, to choose the divine again and again and again, to keep turning inward, 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 to realize that inward and outward are exactly the same eventually, but we keep turning inward and inward and inward, away from the conditioned habit to engage with the worldly through the mechanism of the me, through the denial mechanism, through the sense perception, through all of the ways that we have learned to fragment, all of the ways that desire is playing out, right? So we learn to illuminate, to actually be so open in the moment and welcoming of everything, that whatever is here, it can be met with whatever is needed, right? If this moment is full of some kind of challenge and there's stress in the nervous system, openness, spaciousness, receptivity welcomes it. A willingness to feel the feelings, a willingness to allow the stress in the nervous system to be released. Is collaborating with wholeness, always collaborating with the divine. If this moment is full of joy and there's a relaxation just into this joy and gorgeousness, just to be here in the joyful gorgeousness, right? Never to be looking for anything different. It's to notice the habits that pull you to be wanting, desiring, looking, excavating, doing, right? It's to notice all of that. But you are the vast open spaciousness of the moment. You're welcoming it all so that nothing is being denied. Everything is gracefully, gratefully, wholly being received. But there is also this part two that is about falling into the being, into the being, into the being, turning inward, resting here, sitting here in the being, coming to the transcendent, so that the knowing that you are the transcendent can truly come alive. But it's not a doing. It's not in the process of meditation. The transcendent field is who you are. But if you are in an experience of someone that is meditating and transcending, then there is a doing. You are identified with meditator. You are identified with a quality of doership, right? So where the shift in clear seeing happens is in the being the being and recognizing itself. Okay, the difference, sitting, resting, just falling into a transcendent state. Beautiful. Beautiful, because here stress naturally releases. And there's a gorgeous possibility of managing the stress of your life by transcending. The difference is when you are sitting here resting as the being, resting as the transcendent, as the aware being that is the transcendent field, to notice that you are aware of the moving, changing here. And here's the key: to be aware of yourself being aware of simply being. Being aware first of being aware of the moving, changing. And then here, being aware of yourself, simply being aware. Takes the bottom out, shifts everything, right? Awareness has to be consciously aware of itself, simply being, to fall into the remembering of its awakeness. Has to. It's the only way that the mind completely stops for a nanosecond. Awareness, here simply the still, silent field. How do you know you are here? Are you aware? Yes, you are aware? Great. How do you know? Where do you know? Where is this knowing? Find this knowing and you find freedom. And at some point, you fall all the way through. That is the divine will. But to recognize the felt sense of being aware, can check first to be aware of the moving, changing. Feel yourself as the vast open space. Be aware of thoughts that come and go. Be aware of body, sensations and tensions. Can be aware of the environment. Can be aware of the environment without fragmenting into sense perception, but as the fullness of awareness. Can have eyes open or closed, it matters not. And as there is an awareness of the moving, changing, you recognize that you are the awareness of the moving, changing. And now, as the awareness of the moving, changing, you're also aware of yourself simply being here as the awareness. As awareness recognizes this simplicity of knowing itself, being aware of itself, this is the being, the being. And it is here that the confirmation happens in the being, in the heart, in the spaciousness that simply is. And this is where the being recognizes itself simply being. Notice how the sense of expanded spaciousness gets even bigger, even wider. Notice how the light here is more luminous and clear. Peace is deeper. The joy is like a simple contentment. The felt sense is that you are this emptiness, a blissful emptiness. You are this vast open being, just simply being. You are the peace that cannot be disturbed. And here you know yourself. You know yourself. You can feel yourself. You are simple and innocent and clear and free. You are happiness. You are peace. You are freedom. You are silence. You are simplicity. All of this is happening in the being, underneath the surface of life, and at the same time right in the heart of life. It does not matter what is happening on the surface, does not matter. This truth is here regardless. This truth is always here. It can never go anywhere. You are this wide open heart. You are this emptiness. This can never ever be taken, has never been taken. And here the love, the unconditional love, the boundless compassion, the kindness, the patience, the wholeness, that is the vast open space that receives everything, allows everything to be here, knowing that this truth of who you are is never touched, never ever touched. And yet life is dancing to know itself, to unravel itself, reveal itself to itself. Life is flowing from this silent source and always back into this silent source. It is a flow of grace, a flow of divine grace. It is all of life, not only part of life, all of life is unconditioned, flowing life. Life is just happening. Life is life. Life is the aliveness, and life can never ever die. Life is eternal. Life is dwelling and giving life, animating the form of the physical body. That life, it is eternal life, and you are the eternal life. You are the life that is giving life to every single cell in the body. And the more that you are in the knowing of this life, the more that you are living as this life, the more this life is going to flow freely through the body form, illuminating, recalibrating. The deeper that we go, this life, divine life, is recalibrating the vehicle in order to be a suitable point for the divine to come to the surface of life. Recalibrating, clearing, refining, purifying. And it's all happening through the play of life. processing out all of the stress and the unconscious, making way for the light to flow, for love to flow right to the surface of life. It is an intelligent, divine unfolding, and it's all taking care of itself. So as these words come, just the resonance, just where there is an aligning, feeling the natural truth, noticing where mind can come in and try to question or make sense. Do not let that be a distraction. Just to welcome it all. It is not about understanding with the mind. It is about aligning with the resonance, discovering the intelligence that you are. This incredible awake field of intelligence, the power of pure potentiality, and the open, unbounded field of infinite possibility. It is all one. It is all one. And your consciousness is one with all consciousness, dancing and unraveling itself into the divine knowing, so that in perfect timing can go before consciousness, can surrender all the way into a depth of unity, to come before consciousness in the purity of Brahman, to come before the consciousness. Consciousness is playing to know itself, purify, clarify, and know itself in and as everything through the flow of life, in order to collapse all the way into itself, into utter oneness. Not a doing, nothing to understand, nothing to conceptualize, just to know that the flow of life, the intelligent flow of life, is taking care of everything. We are given everything that is needed to refine and purify and mature. And that is where the play of life offers us this grace to keep receiving, alchemizing the stress through the nervous system, alchemizing what feels like stress and suffering into the bliss of being, alchemizing it through feeling the feelings and openly receiving, so that we can feed that bliss, we can feed the bliss of being to our deepening, we feed it to the divine nature, taking us deeper, purifying, clearing, bringing more and more gorgeous transparency and clarity and knowing of the innocence and immaculate nature. The transmutation of stress brings the bliss of being that takes us deeper into the knowing. So where we feel qualities of bliss and joy and happiness, that is the innate nature, the essence nature. It is to revel in the aliveness, revel in the resonance, because as you revel in the resonance, you drink in the nectar of bliss. And as you drink in the nectar of bliss, deepens the knowing, carries us deeper. the stillness, the simplicity, the silence of being. It does not matter what is happening on the surface of life. You already are, and remembering is here. Here in the peace, in the undisturbable, peaceful stillness that is the essence nature, still, silent, still as a mountain, wise, wise as a mountain. Light, power, self-sustaining, wholeness. Nothing is needed. Pulling all the tendrils in, and as all the tendrils come in, you fall into a depth of presence that is purely now, purely here, wholly here now. Depth of presence that is pure power, and it is in the power of your own presence you fall into the knowing of being. Defenses fall, protections drop, mind relaxes, and you are home, home in the stillness, simplicity of being. A wide open heart, shining, shining as the radiant being that simply is. And just remembering that if the eyes have been closed the entire time, at some point to allow very, very slow opening. And as the eyes would open slowly, to rest absorbed, not to grasp outwards through the eyes, but to openly receive so that you are resting in the self, resting in the being, but the eyes are open and receiving the visual landscape changes nothing. These are precious moments, precious, precious moments to savor as the eyes slowly open, to rest absorbed, to rest immersed in the being, awake to yourself, awake to yourself, undisturbed by the visual landscape, not fragmenting into sense perception and grasping outwards, resting absorbed and simply receiving, being the receiving, being the seeing, being the listening, being the tasting, being the touching, right? You are touching yourself, tasting yourself, seeing yourself, listening to yourself, pulling in the exquisite fragrance of yourself, but you're not grasping, you're just receiving yourself in and as everything, the deliciousness, the glory of receiving yourself. You're not using labels or words or fragmenting in any way, but sense perception is used by the fullness of awareness to be fully aware, subtly aware, touching, feeling the subtlety of yourself, the exquisiteness of yourself. Mm. Mm. And resting here, absorbed in this deep relaxation, the stillness, the silence, the openness of being, being emptiness, being openness, being the vast, infinite spaciousness that includes everything. You are the peace that is undisturbable, and it is just to confirm this in the heart of being, in the knowing of being. Being this being can never ever go anywhere. That you are freedom, that you are home in yourself. Mm. Everything is happening in the unseen. Just to allow. Not resisting anything. You are the openness that resists nothing, allowing everything to be just as it is, not denying or pushing away anything, openly receiving and recognizing how in truth you are not touched in any way by anything, that you are free, freedom in the being. Mm. Such kindness, such a kindness is the essence nature. Such love is the essence nature. Such compassion is the essence nature. Everything softens and melts into this love, because nothing is being denied. Everything softens into this love, into this kindness, into this compassion. When there can be a resting in this compassion and love that is yourself, changes everything, because you can welcome all of yourself fully. You are not trying to deny any part of yourself, just to fall into this incredible compassion and love that is the essence nature. Mm. Anything that is holding on cannot help, cannot hold a defense against this kind of love, the love that you are. Nothing can hold a defense against this compassion and kindness that you are. To welcome all of yourself here as yourself. To welcome everything into simply being. Welcoming everything into the heart of being.